started. Hi everybody, my name is April, and I have an experience I want to share with you. This happened to me about 2 years ago in the city of Columbus. I was staying at my son's house, and we went to bed, so I went outside to smoke a cigarette. So what I usually do is, because he keeps the back porch light on, I shut the porch light off and step out in the back. And I'm looking into his alleyway. I can see his backyard and the neighbor's yard. Well, I went out and I lit up a cigarette, and I was leaning up against his house. And I looked over and I saw these two big blue eyes looking at me from the fence that was down the way a little bit. And I just looked at it. I didn't know what it was. I didn't think anything of it. But then I saw these two blue eyes moving along a 6-foot fence. And it was the craziest looking thing I've ever seen in my life. It had hair sticking up all over its head, and I could see 2 ears, and it was blacker and black, and it had 2 great big blue eyes, a little bit bigger than golf balls. So I just started looking at it because I didn't know what it was. And the thing started moving down the fence, and it looked like a cartoon almost, because it was so black, and all I could see was like hair all over it, and 2 ears on top of its head. So I stood there and I kept watching it, and it was watching me. And I was saying, oh, what is that? What is that? And so I just kept watching it, and I'd look away, and then I'd look over, and it was going up and down the fence line looking at me. So I just stood there, and I didn't know what it was. But we did notice all the stray cats in the area just disappeared. And we wondered where they all went, because we would feed them. And they all disappeared. So I was sitting standing outside, kind of looking and watching what was going on out in the alley. And then this thing, whatever it was going, like I said, up and down the fence line. And there was a big tall light in the alley, and I could see it. It lit up the back, so I couldn't see all the front of it. And then I was standing there, and then it stood up. I mean, this thing was like 8 foot tall. I didn't know what it was, but I wasn't afraid of it because I didn't know what it was. I just kept saying, what is that? What is that? And then it's like I said, it stood up and was staring at me. And then it went back down and started going back along the fence again. And then it was like I said, kept staring. And so I was smoking my cigarette, and that thing pushed off the fence and turned sideways. And then I realized it was a Dogman, and I had to come up off the Scioto River that is right across the street from where my son lives. And this is in the Hodap Reed area off of High Street in Columbus. So after I realized that it was a Dogman, I went, oh shit. And I went into the house. Well, first, what happened before that, let me back up. The Dogman dropped down off the fence. It pushed off the fence, and it turned. And like I said, I could see its snout. That's how I knew it was a Dogman, because I saw the tall ears, and then I saw the snout. And when it went down to the ground, I saw like this black glitter-like stuff, like a puff of smoke. And I kept looking for which way it went down the alley, and I never saw it go anywhere. So I think it like just disappeared. I don't know, because I didn't see where it went. And then I went into the house and flipped the lights back on, and I locked all the doors. I shut all the lights off, and I went into his living room and just sat there, because I was freaking out by that time, because I knew what I saw then. But at first I had no clue what it was. But it was a blue-eyed dog man, and I will never ever forget what I saw that night. It scared me so bad after I realized what it was. I sat there for like 2 hours looking at the front window to see if it came around to look in the window. And then eventually I just fell asleep. And that's what happened to me that night in November of 2022.
Now, April, has anyone else in your family ever had an Inhumanoid experience or been exposed to Inhumanoids before that?
Yes, my father did. He did, and he had a cabin in Stearns, Kentucky, and he used to go down there and fish all the time. Well, it was ran right by a trout stream that they called Rock Creek. And my dad and his buddy was down there fishing all day long. And they kept hearing what my father called a distressed bird call. And it was up in the mountain. And he kept looking. And he said he could never see it. And it would move from different directions and make this really wild, like my dad said, a distressed bird sound. And so my dad didn't pay any attention. They just kept fishing all night. Well, all through the day, and the night fell, and my dad had filleted all the fish and put them in the cooler, and him and his friend went to bed. Well, my dad had these great big tall windows in that cabin, and they were at least 8 foot tall, and they were probably about 9 foot long, and maybe 2 feet wide or tall, and 9 foot wide. And they went to bed, and my dad said he woke up right at the crack of dawn. And he said when he opened his eyes, he looked up at the window, and he saw this, he called a monster, looking in, and my dad could see half of its face and its shoulder. And he said he raised up out of the bed, and that thing took off. And he said he waited a couple hours before he went out of the cabin to look. He thought it was just some neighbor or somebody that was looking in. But he said, no, this thing had hair on its shoulders, and it had a real long head. And now this was 1978. Bigfoot was not really, anybody knew what it was. And my dad went out and walked around the cabin, and he said, there's no way that was a human being. He said he would have had to pull a stump up or something to look in the window. And he said the head was way too big and the shoulder was too wide to be a human being. And then after that, my dad would not go back to that cabin for 2 or 3 years, because I would say, let's go to the cabin, Dad. And he'd say, oh no, that thing's down there. I'm not doing it. That thing's down there. And he goes, and I'm afraid it's going to hurt somebody. So we never went back to that cabin again. And that was in Stearns, Kentucky in 1978. And my dad had to ask other people down around there what they thought it was. And it took him about a year, because people would laugh at him and say, what are you talking about? But there were a couple people that knew what he was talking about. And they told him that he saw a Bigfoot. And my dad went, a what? And they had to explain to my dad what it was. And like I said, my dad never went back to that cabin again.
Did he get to see the face, April?
No, he didn't get to see the face. because it was just coming up, it was just hitting daylight. He just saw the outline of this Bigfoot. And he said he was so scared he didn't have a gun with him or anything. And that's why he was afraid to go out and investigate.
Yeah. So he did not have any clue what it was.
No, he didn't. Not at all. He called it that thing. That thing's down there.
Yeah. So let me ask you this, April. Have you ever in your past saw anything that might be described as a UFO or anything like that?
No, I haven't.
Okay. What about ghosts or spirits? Have you ever had any experience with the ghostly phenomena?
Yeah, I have. Yes, I have.
Can you tell us about that a little? Some
Well,
of your experiences with that?
Well, I'll tell you the one that happened to me most recently, and this was in this past year. My son bought a really old house where I saw the Dogman. He bought this really old, his house was built in 1902. And he bought the house because it was really run down. He wanted to bring love back to that house. So he refurbished that house and he restored it back to its natural beauty. And I would come and stay with him once in a while because he's a single man. And he would say, Mom, come up. We'll go out and we'll get something to eat and we'll play cards or we'll watch some shows on TV. And I knew that he wanted some company, so I'd go up and stay with him a night or two. Well, one night I was in bed and I went to bed and he was in his room and he went to bed. And then I woke up the next morning and I was sitting on the edge of my bed and I heard somebody get up and walk across the wooden floor and go down the stairs. So I assumed my son got up and I wanted him to help me take my stuff out to my car. So I grabbed my pillows and I went down the stairs and I walked all around his house in every room, the kitchen, the dining room, the living room. I even went into the bathroom and nobody was downstairs. But I distinctly heard somebody walk across the top of that bedroom area and go down a big flight of stairs. You could hear the footsteps going down the stairs. And even the creaking of the wood was creaking. I haven't stayed with him since because he seems to have a lot of things going on at his house in that area.
Right, and this was the same house where you was standing outside and saw the Dogman, right?
Yes, it was.
In Columbus, Ohio.
Yes, and it's right off of High Street. It's the Reeve-Hozak area of Columbus, and that's like a mile from downtown Columbus. And I never dreamed in my life I would see a Bigfoot or a Dogman or anything like that in the city. That's why I think I couldn't figure out what I was looking at because, I always thought they were in the woods, And
yeah.
I saw that thing and I'll never, ever forget. I've never seen that color of blue eye and ever. And they were big eyes. I didn't know what it was.
Right. Well, is there anything else you'd like to share with us, April?
Not really. That was I wasn't looking for this thing. It found me. And
Right.
we had a stare down and that's all, that's about all that I can say about that.
I remember you said something about, you had some feeling about it being female?
Yes, I did have the feeling that it was a female Dogman. Because when it stood up, I could see its ears, I could see its shoulders, and it went down into a V. But I couldn't see below its stomach. And I got a sense it was a female. I don't know why, but I got a sense it was like a female Dogman. And because just the way It never aggressed on me. I just stood there. We kind of like stared down. And I wasn't afraid. And I think it knew I wasn't afraid because I didn't know what it was. So I'm not afraid of something I don't know what it was.
Right. But it did scare you once you realized it was a
Oh,
dog
yes,
man.
when I saw it turn and I saw the muzzle on it, because I knew it had two pointed black ears and like this fur all around its back of its head and on its shoulders. I just couldn't figure out what is that thing. And I just, like I said, I thought it was a female. I don't know why I felt that way. But it was something that was alive, that was moving. I know it wasn't like in my mind. I mean, I know what I saw. And when that thing turned, it went down, and I saw like a puff of smoke, glitter. It was like black glitter, but you could see it. And then the like smoke went away, or glitter, or whatever you want to call it. But it had a sparkle to it when the dogman went down. And I never saw which way it went. I had no clue, and I thought it was going to come around down the side house and get me. And I went, and like I said, I went into the house, and I was really freaking out after I realized what it was. But it did not want to come at me, and I wasn't, like I said, I wasn't afraid of it. We just kind of did a stare down, and I knew it was going, she don't know what I am. She don't know she's not afraid, because I wasn't afraid until it turned. That's when I really got afraid.
Right. Well, thank you, April, for sharing your experiences with all of us. We sure appreciate you. And to everyone out there, Miss April is a very, very fine, upstanding lady. She's a Christian, and she does not tell lies. Is that correct, April?
No, I don't have no reason to. What's wrong with the truth?
Right. Well, thank you again, April.
Thanks,
And
Barton.
we all appreciate you.
Thank you, April.
Thanks, Letitia. Thanks, everybody.